I don't remember the exact moment I stopped being their daughter, but I do remember the day I realized it. It started with a stranger's email. "You probably don't know me," it read, "but I bought a box of old photos at a community auction. You might want to take a look." There was an attachment. I clicked it. And there I was, age 5, in a pink corduroy jumper, laughing mid-spin in the backyard of the house my parents lost 5 years ago. Another photo. Me at 10, building a sandcastle at a beach I barely remembered. Then dozens more. Birthdays, school plays, Christmas mornings, scraped knees, crayon drawings pinned to the fridge. They were my childhood. Pieces of me that I didn't even realize were missing. I hadn't seen some of those photos in decades, and now they were someone else's. Sold. No note from my parents, no call to ask if I wanted them, no warning, just a tidy little auction, probably for pocket change. The stranger, a man named Curtis, said he bought them at a community fundraiser in Westview, the town my parents moved to after they downsized, without telling me. He was kind. He offered to send them back. Said he recognized my name because some of the envelopes were labeled "To Mira" in handwriting I could never forget. I sat there, at the kitchen table in my tiny London flat, staring at those pixelated ghosts of myself, and my hands trembled. Curtis shipped the box the next day. It arrived wrapped carefully in bubble wrap and brown paper, every photo labeled and sorted. There was even a little snow globe tucked into the corner, one I vaguely remembered from a Christmas in the late 90s. When I turned it upside down, the glitter fell in thick, slow flurries. My stomach turned, because I suddenly knew this wasn't just about clutter or moving. This was a pattern, an unraveling, one that started years ago and I hadn't wanted to see. I called my mother, she didn't pick up. So I called again. This time my father answered. His voice was clipped. "What is it, Mira? We're busy." I asked him why they sold the photos. There was a pause. Then he said, "We didn't think you'd care. You never come visit." Never mind that they moved 3 times without telling me until after the fact. Never mind that I only found out about Dad's retirement party because a family friend posted a blurry picture on Facebook. He didn't apologize. He didn't ask if I wanted them. He just said they were taking up space. I hung up. That night, I sat on the floor with the photos spread around me. I was 31, a marketing consultant, single, no kids, no partner. But once, I'd been someone's miracle. Once, they'd called me Starshine. I remembered the way Mom used to sing while braiding my hair, how she used to save the last cookie in the jar for me. I remembered Dad pretending to be a horse just to make me laugh after I fell off my bike. Where had all that gone? I knew what I had to do. It started with a plan. Not revenge. Not really. Something more delicate. Something meaningful. I didn't want to get even. I wanted to show them. Show them what it meant to lose something sacred. So I made a list. At the top, find out what they value most. It didn't take long. My parents had relocated to a cottage near the Cotswolds. Quaint, expensive, picturesque. From what I could see on Mum's Pinterest-obsessed Facebook, the house was filled with antiques, family heirlooms they'd refused to pass on, claiming I was too transient. Silver teapots, hand-carved clocks, a grandfather chair that had belonged to my great-grandfather, and of course the Wexley chest, a heavy, cedar-lined beast of a trunk that sat in the corner of their study. I hadn't seen it in years, but I remembered the way they talked about it, passed down from generation to generation, full of family pride, Mum used to say. So I paid a visit, unannounced. It was raining when I showed up at their door, holding the box of returned photos under my arm. Mum opened it. She looked surprised, but not necessarily pleased. "Mira, we weren't expecting you." I stepped inside without waiting. The smell of beeswax polish and lavender hit me instantly. Familiar, sterile. Dad appeared in the hallway, his eyes narrowing slightly. "You should have called." I tried. I placed the box on the console table by the stairs. "Curtis sent these, from Westview." Their expressions changed, slightly. Mom looked vaguely embarrassed. Dad crossed his arms. We didn't think they'd matter to you anymore, she said. I just looked at her. Then why did you write my name on the envelopes? Neither of them answered. I left the box there. Didn't take off my coat, didn't ask for tea, just walked through the house like a ghost. I saw the chest again, the Wexley, still gleaming like it did in childhood, still locked. I asked casually, do you still have the key? Mum frowned. Of course. Why? I shrugged. No reason, quote. But there was a very good reason. Because I was going to auction everything in that chest. Over the next few weeks, I built my plan with surgical precision. First, I partnered with an online estate charity platform that handled valuable antiques. Then I set up a silent auction listing titled, The Forgotten Chest, a Legacy Reimagined. I used professional photos, full provenance, and spun a heartbreaking tale about items lost and recovered. Everything was legal, I made sure of it. Because here's the thing. The chest wasn't registered to them. It was in Sama name, thanks to a will my grandmother signed but never told them about. One copy of that document had been tucked inside a Christmas card I'd kept since I was 17. I found it in the shoebox under my bed, and it held up. The auction went live on a Tuesday. By Friday, bids had topped £15,000. I didn't tell them. Not yet. Instead, I sent an invitation. A formal card. You are cordially invited to the reveal reception of the Forgotten Chest. Location, the Glassroom Gallery, Soho. Date, next Thursday. Dress code, cocktail. They RSVP'd with a single-line email, will attend. I wasn't sure what I expected. But when the night arrived and they walked into the gallery with their stiff smiles and tailored clothes, I watched the realization bloom across their faces. The chest sat under a spotlight, open, lined in velvet, its contents displayed like relics. A lace shawl. A silver locket. The signed first edition of a book Dad claimed had no value. And a placard that read, Asterisk, 100% of proceeds go to children in foster care to preserve the memories they'll carry forward. Mum's eyes widened. Dad looked like he'd swallowed a nail. I stepped forward. I thought if our memories didn't matter to you, I said quietly, maybe they could matter to someone else. They didn't say anything, not then. But as the first bidder raised their paddle, I saw it. The flicker of regret. And I smiled. Because for the first time in years, Hamzai's Hums held the frame. The photos they sold were back in my hands. And what they lost that night was something you can't buy back. Legacy. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. But tonight, I have a confession. I'm scared. Standing backstage at the gallery, watching the last guests drift away, I feel the weight of the Wexley chest's absence. The Lux clinked open under my fingertips when I first laid claim to it, but tonight, that cedar-scented coffin holds a different promise. It's empty of its past and full of potential for the future. I scroll through the photos of the reception on my phone. Red carpet flashes. A sharp-suited auctioneer counting bids. My parents on the edge of the stage, her hand gripping his arm, his jaw clenched. They look lost. And for a moment, I wonder, have I pushed them too far? I pocket the phone and step into the dark. In the alley behind the gallery, the night is cold. Rain drips down the brim of my coat. A sleek black car glides up. The passenger window rolls down. It's Curtis, the Good Samaritan who tracked down my box of photos. Good show tonight, he says, voice low over the idling engine. Thanks, I murmur. He nods at the box in my arms. The final check clears tomorrow, sold for 16 grand, all going to to the charity. I manage a smile. I wanted a clean break. Curtis glances at me in the rear view. Aren't we all more messy than that? Memories, they never unwrap themselves neatly. I look away. He's right. Each photograph was a tangle of love and loss. Every heirloom a testament to what we choose to hold on to. I thought auctioning their treasures would teach my parents a lesson about valuing what they own. But in reality, I taught myself more. Thanks for everything, I say, hefting the box onto my shoulder. Anytime, he replies, then asks quietly, are you sure you're okay? I nod, though I'm not. I want to tell him that the photos I just mailed off to the charity team, snapshots of complete strangers in foster homes across the UK, feel hollow without the faces I know. But I don't. I just thank him again and slip away into the night. The next morning, I wake late. The city hums below my window. Double-decker buses, hurried footsteps, distant church bells. I brew coffee and stare at my reflection. The woman in the mirror looks confident, fierce even. But inside, I'm unraveling. On my desk, the pile of returned photos sits neatly tied with twine. I've framed the 3 childhood pics I cherish most. The spinning in the backyard, the sandcastle, and the snow globe from Christmas. They remind me why I started this crusade. My phone buzzes. A single message from Mum. Can we talk? Quote. No apology, no mention of the auction, just that line. I stare at it for 2 minutes, then I delete it. I need time, distance. A chance to figure out what I'm really fighting for. It's odd, moving on. For weeks, I've poured myself into the charity's media campaign, press releases, interviews with foster families, a short video I narrated about the power of preserving memories. The charity's site features my story as a spotlight. Donors comment about how inspired they are. And me? I feel like I'm inside a story I don't recognize. Late one evening, as I finalize the campaign's launch, an email pings from the auction house. The Wexley chest has sold. The buyer is anonymous, but the bid was massive, over £15,000. My heart pounds. It's gone. Not just the chest, but my grandmother's shawl, Dad's first edition book, even the locket with our initials carved inside. I should feel triumphant. Instead, tears blur my vision. I close the laptop and lean back. The room spins. Why am I grieving for objects that belong to strangers now? Because they weren't just things. They were proof of a lineage, a lifetime of love I'd shoved away with my anger. I realize I can't undo the auction. I did it legally, ethically, but morally, I'm not so sure. My phone rings. It's a number I don't recognize. I answer. Hello? A woman's voice, warm but urgent. Mira Reynolds? This is Hannah from New Beginnings Children's Charity. I just wanted to say, your campaign has raised enough to fund digital memory boxes for over 50 foster kids. We're holding a launch event tomorrow. Would you like to attend? I swallow. Thank you, Hannah. That means a lot. She hesitates. Also, some of the children asked about you. They want to learn your story firsthand. My breath catches. I'd love that. The next day, I stand in a bright community center room, sunlight streaming through stained glass windows. Painted murals of self-portraits and handprints line the walls. A dozen foster kids, ages 8 to 14, cluster around, clutching tablets that will capture their memories. I tell them who I am, a girl who lost her own treasures, then found a way to give others a chance to remember. I show them the framed photos of me, little and bright-eyed. They giggle at the outfits, pink corduroy and neon swimsuits. After, they record stories. A first love letter, a diary entry about a birthday, a drawing of a dog they never had. And I watch, amazed, as their memories glide through circuits and clouds, preserved for when they're on their own. One little girl, about 10, holds up her tablet. A shaky recording of her voice. And then my mama sang me lullabies every night, even when I was sick. Her lips quiver. She wipes her eyes. The room goes quiet. My chest tightens. I swallow hard. Thank you for sharing that. She nods, eyes shining. As they leave one by one, I realize this is what mattered all along. Memory. Not glass and silver or cedar chests, not auctions or public battles. Just the heartbeat of a story that lives inside you. That night, I sit at my desk again, but this time, I'm not writing press releases. I'm opening the shoebox under the bed, grabbing the grandmother's will, the tattered Christmas card. And I'm dialing a number I thought I'd never call. Mom? It's me. My voice is soft. I want to talk about the will. Because the past isn't just a series of losses, it's a bridge. And tomorrow I intend to cross it. Time's end of part 2. I hope you enjoyed this chapter. Let me know when you're ready for part 3, and I'll pick up right where we left off. Mom, it's me. I want to talk about the will. Her voice on the other end is hesitant, brittle. Mira, she whispers, like we haven't spoken in years instead of days. I pause, gathering breath, trying to steady the whirlwind of my thoughts. I found it in my shoebox, I say, heart hammering, the copy of Grandma's will, the one where she left the Wexley chest to me. Silence. Then, your grandmother, she never told us. You never asked, I reply quietly. Mum sighs, heavy as the past. Can you come tomorrow? To the cottage. We need to talk in person. I agree. The line goes dead before I can add anything else. The next morning, I catch the early train from Paddington. The carriage is half empty in the gray dawn. My suitcase sits by my feet. A single bag of clothes, my laptop, and a folder bulging with copies of legal papers, genealogical charts, and a photograph of my grandmother as a young woman, eyes blazing with resolve. Outside the window, the English countryside drifts by, rolling fields dotted with grazing sheep, hedgerows running like ribbons, ancient stone walls crumbling in silent testimony to centuries gone by. We pull into Morton Marsh just after 9. The station is quiet, Victorian brick and half-forgotten flower beds. I slip on my coat and step onto the platform, drawing in the chill air. Up the lane, the cottage sits behind a curtain of wisteria. Ivy climbs the walls. The windows are small-paned antiques. It looks unchanged from my childhood memories, except for the for sale sign buried in the overgrown garden. Mum meets me at the gate. She's wearing the same navy blue coat she always wore when she expected company. Neat, buttoned, a single strand of pearls at her neck. Her eyes are red-rimmed. I hug her, and she stiffens at first, then returns it softly. Inside, the cottage smells of lavender sachets and old paper. We sit at the kitchen table, plates of toast, half-boiled eggs forgotten between us. You look well, Mum says. I've been busy. I slide the folder across the table. I want to understand why you sold the chest, why you never told me about the will. Mum traces the edge of the folder with a finger. She closes her eyes. Your grandmother loved you fiercely, she begins. But after she died, after your grandfather, we were so lost. Her voice cracks. You were 6, she says. The house was falling apart. Grandfather was gone, she left the estate in your name, but the taxes alone would have swallowed it. I panicked. My heart twists. Mom, I whisper. I sold the chest to pay the back taxes. I told your father it was just storage items. Junk. I never dreamed you'd care. Tears slip down her cheeks. We did what we thought was best to survive. That's all. I stare at her, unsure how to respond. The logic is as fractured as the years of silence between us. Then Dad appears in the doorway, his suit wrinkled, tie loosened, face ashen. I'm sorry too, he says, voice low. I should have told you when we moved. When we sold everything. But I was ashamed that we couldn't keep your grandmother's legacy, ashamed that you might hate us. Mum reaches out and takes his hand. We're not monsters, she says. We're just human. I blink back tears. The folder between us suddenly feels impossibly heavy. Paper and ink can't contain the weight of a lifetime. I clear my throat. I need to know everything, I say, and it comes out as a command. Dad nods, stepping inside. Let's start with the chest. In the study, the space where the chest used to be sits empty, a stain on the floorboards, a lingering ember of what used to burn. Mum opens the folder and pulls out a photocopy of the will. Your grandmother signed this in 1994, she says. After the car accident, Dad adds, voice steady. She told me it was important, Mum continues. She said, no matter what happens, that chest belongs to Mira. It's her history, her anchor. Pain flickers across her face. I didn't listen, she whispers. A gust of wind rattles the window. I step closer, fingering the photocopy of my grandmother's signature, an elegant scrawl that somehow binds all of us across time and regret. Then why hide it? Mom looks away. Dad doesn't answer. Silence stretches, thick as fog. I suppose, I say carefully, I did the same thing you did. I tried to erase you from my story without realizing I was erasing me. Asterisk. They look at me, surprised. By auctioning your heirlooms, I continue, I thought I was teaching you to value memories. But really, I was punishing you, and punishing myself. Mom reaches for my hand. Can we make this right? She asks. I swallow. I don't know yet. My phone buzzes in my pocket. A message from an unknown number. Check your email. I step outside into the hallway and open my inbox. A new message. Subject: auction update. I click it, and my breath catches. Because what I see on the screen changes everything I thought I knew about the chest, the bidding, and the anonymous buyer. Note: let me know when you're ready for part 4, and I'll continue from here. Subject: auction update. From info@heritageauctiontrust.org. Mailto: info@heritageauctiontrust.org. T: mira.reynolds.consulting@gmail.com. Mailto: mira.reynolds.consulting@gmail.com. Mira: we've been instructed to inform you that the winning bidder for the Wexley chest has formally waived anonymity. They have also requested that you be present for the official item transfer. Attached you will find the buyer's statement. Congratulations again on the success of your charity campaign. Sincerely, Heritage Auction Trust. I stare at the email, a weird sensation crawling under my skin. Who waived anonymity? Who cared enough to want me there? I open the attachment. It's short, handwritten, and scanned. The handwriting is bold, neat. Mira: some things aren't meant to be lost. I bought the chest to give it back. I didn't want it in a museum or behind velvet ropes or dissected on someone's blog. I wanted it home. Nopsha's Knox, let me explain. In person. Asterisk. A's used time per someone cestus Knox. Just that. No last name. Just A. My mind reels. I replay every interaction. From the gallery. From my campaign. From the interviews. Who was watching? Who cared? And who knew the Wexley chest wasn't just furniture, but a chapter of my soul? I text the charity office, ask for more details. They reply with a date and time. Tomorrow, noon. The Wexley chest will be at the donor lounge, reserved for personal exchanges. I turn to face the study, where my parents are still talking quietly, bent over the folder. And I make a decision. The train ride back to London feels shorter this time, like something unseen is pulling me forward. I barely sleep that night. I reread the note from A 5 times, hunting for a clue. I Google every collector, patron, and private buyer who might fit. Nothing. The next day I dress simply. A dark green blouse, slacks, and the silver bracelet I wore when I graduated, the one Mom gave me with trembling fingers. At exactly 11:58 a.m., I enter the Heritage Auction Trust building. It's airy, modern, marble everywhere. The donor lounge is tucked into the rear of the building, behind a set of frosted glass doors. A receptionist leads me in. And there it is. The Wexley chest. Not behind glass. Not hidden, just sitting on a low pedestal in the center of the room, warm-toned wood gleaming. The iron hinges shine. The scent of cedar hits me like a memory. Then I hear it, the creak of a door. Someone enters. I turn, and my mouth goes dry. It's Amira Walters. A client. A colleague. A competitor. We worked together for a brief period 2 years ago, co-chairing a media panel at a London tech summit. She was sharp, impossibly composed, with eyes that didn't miss a thing. We got on well, had coffee once or twice, exchanged ideas. She disappeared off the radar last year. Some said she left the city altogether. But now she steps forward, wearing a navy coat and boots I remember admiring. She smiles. I didn't know how else to say it, she says, but I couldn't watch that chest vanish into someone's storage facility. I remembered how you spoke about memory, about your grandmother. I recognized the name when I saw the listing. I'm stunned. You bought it? She nods. Anonymous bid. I didn't want to intrude, but it didn't feel right letting it disappear. I blink fast. So, it's mine again? That depends, she says softly. Do you want it back? I step toward the chest. My hand touches the lid. Inside, I know, are the shawl, the book, the locket, the ledger, the soul of a house I never fully understood. Yes, I whisper. Yes, I do. Quote. She smiles. Then it's yours. Later, we sit in a coffee shop not far from the building. The chest has been crated for delivery. My hands are still shaking. Why? I ask her. Amira shrugs. Because I know what it means to lose everything that proves you belonged. And I know what it means to finally get a second chance. I study her. There are lines around her eyes I didn't remember, a certain softness that wasn't there before. You disappeared, I say. Where did you go? She sips her tea. Bristol, she says. My mother was dying, early onset dementia. I went to take care of her, and one day, she forgot who I was, but she remembered the drawer where she kept my baby teeth. She meets my eyes. Memories are strange. Sometimes they survive even when people don't. I nod slowly. So you saved mine, I say. You did the same for those kids, she replies. Seems fair. The chest arrives at my flat the next morning. I have to rearrange furniture just to fit it. But when I unlock it and lift the lid, I sit on the floor for 2 hours just breathing it in. I run my hands over every object, every corner. I whisper my grandmother's name. Then I do something I never thought I would. I call my parents. Dad answers. It came back, I say. The chest, someone bought it for me. A beat, then his voice breaks. That's good, Mira. That's really good. I want you to come see it, I say. I want us to go through it, together. There's a long silence. Then he says, we'll come tomorrow. The next day, they arrive. Mum brings scones. Dad wears his old university tie. We kneel around the chest like pilgrims. Each object is passed hand to hand. Each story is told, sometimes haltingly, sometimes with tears. It takes all afternoon. We talk about Grandma, about childhood, about the time I broke my arm and they both slept in the hospital chair. There is healing here, raw and honest. As dusk falls, I rise and fetch something from my closet. A small wooden box. Inside it, scanned prints, USB drives, old negatives. The photos Curtis sent back. I want to make an archive, I say, one we can all add to. Mum places a hand on my shoulder. We'd like that. Dad clears his throat. There's something we haven't told you, he says, about Grandma. I turn, curious. He opens a worn envelope. Inside it, a letter. Grandma's handwriting. Addressed to me, my dearest Mira. If you're reading this, I hope you never had to fight too hard for the memories that made you. The Wexley chest is yours, not because of what's inside, but because you were always meant to be the one who keeps stories alive. Whatever happens, don't let the world make you forget that. Love, Grandma. I clutch the letter to my chest. And I know, in that moment, that I'll never sell a piece of myself again. Times end of part 4. The story has just reached a powerful turning point. Let me know when you're ready for part 5. And don't forget, we'll be including the special message halfway through that one. The letter from my grandmother stays in my lap long after my parents have left. I don't move. I don't speak. I don't even blink much, afraid that if I do, the words might vanish. As though they were only lent to me, not meant to be read, and the universe might realize it made a mistake. You were always meant to be the one who keeps stories alive. That line carves itself into my ribcage. I run my fingers over her signature, tracing every loop, every slope. There's the shape of her, sharp, tidy, elegant. I remember how she used to write notes on little blue cards, and slide them into books for me to find. She called them time letters, said they were meant to find me when I needed them most. This one found me right on time. The next morning, I scan the letter, upload it to my digital archive, then tuck the original inside a linen envelope and slip it into the Wexley chest. I take out the locket next. I pop it open and find something I hadn't noticed before. Tucked beneath the miniature photo of my grandparents is a tiny sliver of parchment, brittle but intact. It reads, "Every heirloom is a lesson, not just a legacy. Ask the right question and it will answer." My heart jumps. I run to my bookshelf and grab the first edition book my father dismissed as worthless. The spine is still cracked the way it was when I first opened it at 13 and promptly ignored it because it wasn't a fantasy novel. Now, I handle it like a sacred text. I open the back cover. Taped inside is a small envelope with my name on it. I almost laugh. Grandma turned every object into a trail. Inside the envelope is a single key. No tag, no clue. Just a brass key, aged and cool to the touch. I spent the day combing through the chest and everything in it, trying to find a lock it might fit. Nothing. I checked drawers, old diaries, even the box the snow globe came in. Finally, at dusk, I spot a small seam on the bottom of the chest itself. A panel, barely visible unless you're looking for it. The key turns with a soft click. A hidden drawer slides out. Inside, a small velvet box and a handwritten document. The box contains a brooch, not gold or diamonds, something older. Roman, maybe? A lion's head carved into stone, backed in tarnished silver. And the paper is a contract, a bequest, one I've never seen before. It names Margaret Wexley, * my great-great-grandmother, as the original owner of the chest, and states that any woman in the Wexley line may claim it and its contents by blood right, regardless of intervening ownership. It's dated 1891. I sit back, stunned. The Wexley chest wasn't just a piece of furniture. It was an inheritance passed matrilineally, mother to daughter, against the norms of their time. And my family had forgotten, or erased it. I stare at the document, a reverence blooming in my chest. Then I make a decision. I won't just preserve the stories. I'll tell them. That night, I build a website. Nothing flashy, just clean, elegant. The homepage has a photo of the Wexley chest, bathed in soft light. Beneath it, the tagline, "Stories We Inherit." Each section tells a different chapter: the origin of the chest, my grandmother's letters, the auction, the rediscovery. But the heart of the site is a submission form. Share your heirlooms story. I post it across my social channels, email old clients, even reach out to the charity kids I met. By morning, the inbox is full. A woman in Cornwall writes about her mother's sewing kit, which held the last button she ever stitched. A man in Glasgow shares a spoon passed down since World War I. A teenager in Birmingham uploads a photo of a quilt made from her foster siblings' baby clothes. Their stories pour in, raw and vivid and full of heart. I start reading them out loud, recording them, pairing them with simple visuals, and uploading them to a YouTube channel I name The Archive of Us. In the first week, it gets 8,000 subscribers. By the second, 20,000. People comment things like, "I didn't know how much I needed this until I started crying over a stranger's music box. My dad left a note in the base of his shaving kit. I found it after watching your video. Thank you." And then, "Do you accept anonymous heirlooms? I work in house clearance. I find these things every week, and I know someone out there is missing them." That message changes everything. I set up a P.O. box. By the end of the month, it's overflowing. Letters, trinkets, photos, locks of hair, broken spectacles in velvet pouches. I catalog each one, photograph them, build a digital museum, interactive, navigable, with sound and music and whispers of forgotten love. The archive becomes more than a project. It becomes a Nama movement. We start hosting story nights. Cafes volunteer their spaces. We light candles, We bring the heirlooms, and people come. People who've never spoken about their families. People who don't have families. They come, and they sit, and they say things like, "This belonged to my brother. He died in 2003. I never told anyone how he died, but this watch, it was the last thing he touched." And the room goes quiet. Then someone else speaks. Then another. And we're all held by the weight of memory. Halfway through one story night, I pause and speak to the audience. "This story took us a long time. If you like it, subscribe. Now, back to the story." They laugh. But they do it. Eventually, I bring my parents. Mom clutches the Wexley brooch. Dad holds the snow globe. They take turns telling a story about the first dinner party they hosted as newlyweds. Mom burned the roast. Dad spilled red wine on the curtains. We all laugh. Afterward, a young woman approaches them. She looks barely 20. She says, "I never knew what happy parents looked like. Until tonight." Mom's eyes fill. She hugs the girl. Later, she tells me, "We're not perfect, Mira, but if we can be someone's proof that love can be repaired, maybe we're not too late." Back home, I tuck the brooch into the Wexley chest. I place the lion's head right above Grandma's letter. I add my own. To the next keeper of the stories. Don't be afraid to dig. The past is soil. Everything you plant in it will bloom. Asterisk, Mira. Times end of part 5. Asterisk, Nimes, I'll. Let me know when you're ready for part 6. The archive is just beginning to take root, and Mira's transformation is far from over. The brooch feels heavier in my palm than it looks. Maybe because I know now that it isn't just jewelry. It's a key, a declaration, a whispered instruction passed through generations. The lion's head stares up at me, resolute. Every time I run my thumb over the ancient carving, I feel like I'm making a silent promise to all the women who came before me. I won't let their stories die. Not again. The archive of us spreads faster than I ever expected. By the middle of the next month, my inbox is a war zone of collaboration requests, invitation offers, and story submissions. Universities want to host traveling exhibitions. A streaming platform proposes a documentary series. Even a publishing house emails to ask if I've considered writing a memoir. The answer to that last one is no. But it sticks in my head. Everywhere I go now, people hand me pieces of their past. A woman slips me a harmonica that belonged to her grandfather in the trenches. A retired postman gives me a tea tin, where his mother once hid love letters from someone she could never marry. A child hands me a necklace made of paper clips. My brother made it for me before he got adopted, she says. He said it was magic. And who am I to say it isn't? My flat begins to resemble a museum. There are labeled boxes, lined shelves, digital scanners, old photo albums stacked in tidy towers. I hire 2 part-time assistants to help with intake and documentation. And then I do something harder than any of that. I go back to Westview, the place where my photos were sold. It's a strange town, neither charming nor ugly. The kind of place people drive through without stopping, unless they live there. I pull into the same community center parking lot where Curtis first saw the auction poster pinned to the notice board. I walk inside. Same chipped tiles, same brittle bulletin board. This time, there's a flyer with my own face on it. Trams asterisk, Memory Revival Night, with Mira Reynolds, founder of the Archive of Us. Asterisk. It feels surreal. I step into the room where that auction once took place. The long folding tables are back, but now they hold photos in frames, handwritten notes beneath each one. Curtis greets me near the front, wearing his usual soft-spoken smile. "Didn't think we'd be seeing you again," he says. "Didn't think I'd want to," I admit. He gestures around. "They remember you, not as the girl whose photos were sold, as the woman who turned loss into something useful." I glance at the tables. One of the framed photos is mine, me, age 5, spinning. "Do you know who brought that?" I ask. He nods. "Your dad?" The air catches in my throat. Curtis continues. "He said he wanted someone else to see what joy looked like in case they forgot how it felt." I close my eyes. That night, I tell the story. All of it. To a crowd of 60 folding chairs and mismatched cardigans, I talk about the box, the charity, the Wexley chest, the hidden drawer, the brooch, the website, the archive. I tell them about the pain. I tell them about the healing. I tell them about how sometimes families don't get it right the first time, or the second, or even the third. But if you keep showing up, eventually someone hears you. When I finish, people are crying. One man hugs me and slips an old coin into my palm. He says, "My father gave me this when I left for university. I never told him I dropped out. Maybe if you tell the story, it won't feel like a failure anymore." I promise I will. Weeks pass. Then months. The Archive of Us becomes its own entity, incorporated, staffed, funded. I establish a nonprofit branch, apply for grants, partner with foster care networks and elderly care homes to retrieve memory fragments before they vanish. One day, a parcel arrives from Edinburgh. Inside, a single faded photograph of a man and woman dancing in a war-torn street. No note. I post it to the archive with the caption, "Do you know them?" Within 3 hours, a woman from Belfast responds. "That's my gran, and her first fiancé. He died before she could marry him. She never told us she had this photo." I add it to the Verified Stories page. She visits the archive headquarters the next week, brings her own grandchildren, tells them, "This is how we remember people properly." One Friday night, after a long day of sorting donations, I sit on the floor of my flat and open the Wexley chest again. This time, I take out the snow globe. I shake it. The glitter falls like a snowstorm. And for a moment, I swear I can smell cocoa. Hear my grandmother humming. I pull out the locket, the ledger, the brooch. Then I do something brave. I take the contents of the chest and begin a new exhibit. One dedicated entirely to the women in my family, their stories, their artifacts, their notes, their truths. Each item is placed under soft light, with their names written in brass plaques beneath. Margaret Wexley, Charlotte Wexley, Margaret Rose, Elizabeth Reynolds. And then, Yerkret Wexley Reynolds. Because I belong to them, and they belong to me. And now, maybe, to the world too. Turn it into the permanent home of the Archive of Us. When I tell my parents, they're speechless. My mom cries. "I thought it was all gone," she says. "I thought the Wexleys were just stories." "They are," I say, "but now they're going to have a roof again." I launch a campaign. #Wexley Returns. The response is massive. Donors, historians, architects, volunteers, people from all over the country who've followed the archive come forward. Some send family artifacts. Some offer to clean. Some come with nothing but hands and heart. We start restoration in the spring. By summer, we have electricity. By fall, we have a working roof. And on the first snow of December, I open the Wexley Hall archive room to the public. The brooch sits in a glass case at the center. And beside it, the snow globe. Meins time sums hell Laskow. Some sas comes. The snowers come. Nor some sas sas. Let me know when you're ready for part 9. As Mira breathes life back into Wexley Hall, something long buried, something that threatens to tear apart all she's built, will surface next. Recognition doesn't change you overnight, but it does something else. It raises the stakes. Every choice now echoes louder. Every mistake is a headline waiting to happen. I don't feel famous, but I feel watched. And I don't know what to do with that feeling. Especially when the past comes knocking again. It starts with a message. Not through my archive inbox. Not on my professional email. It comes through my old consulting address, one I haven't used since before the first photo ever arrived from Curtis. The subject line is blank. The body contains just 3 words. Plimes asterisk. Do you remember? Asterisk? The email address is a string of numbers. No name, no signature. My first instinct is to ignore it. Spam, probably, or some weird PR stunt. But the next day, another one arrives. Points asterisk. The chest wasn't the only thing she left you. Asterisk. My breath catches. Because now I know this isn't spam. This is about Grandma. I dig into the metadata. The email was sent from a private server, anonymized. The only traceable ping is from a cafe Wi-Fi network in Yorkshire. I don't know anyone in Yorkshire. But Grandma did. Her brother, my great-uncle Alfred, a recluse, died decades ago, left no children, or so we thought. I grabbed the Wexley ledger, the one with generations of names. Flipping pages, I find it. Ty Smine Sash Wexley, B. 1941 asterisk. There's a faint pencil note under it. Adopted? Asterisk with a question mark. I've never noticed it before. My phone buzzes. Another email. Kimes asterisk. You forgot to ask what she hid. Asterisk. This time, there's an attachment. A photo. Blurry. A hand holding up a folded piece of paper. At the bottom corner, just visible, Grandma's handwriting. And something else. A seal. Wax. Deep blue. Pressed with the outline of a lion's head. My grandmother's symbol. I show it to my mum. Her face drains of color. That's the Wexley crest, she whispers. Your great-grandmother used it for formal family business. I haven't seen it since I was a child. I show her the emails. Do you know who this could be? She hesitates. No, but maybe. Her fingers tremble. Mira, before she died, your grandmother said something strange. She told me, the stories aren't all in the chest. Some are in the silence. I stare at her. And you didn't think to tell me that before? I thought she was being poetic, Mum says softly. I didn't realize she meant it literally. I don't sleep that night. I start calling every archive and records office in Yorkshire, looking for anything, an adoption record, a second will, a hidden property. I come up dry, until a local clerk emails me back. One line. Times asterisk. You may want to visit Wexley Hall. Asterisk. Wexley Hall. I didn't even know it existed. It's not really a hall, more a crumbling manor tucked between hedgerows and disrepair. Built in 1802, used by the Wexley line until the early 60s, then abandoned. Or so I thought. I make the drive with Curtis. I don't tell my parents yet. Something tells me I need to see it alone. The gates are rusted, the path is overgrown, the windows are boarded, but there's a light on inside. I knock. No answer. I knock again. A moment later, the door creaks open. And there he stands. Mid-60s, tall, dark eyes, skin like parchment. Mira, he says. My name sounds like a bell in his voice. You look just like her. Who are you? He smiles faintly. Her secret. His name is Ash Wexley. Illegitimate by birth, recognized by blood. He leads me through the house. It's falling apart. But it's lived in. Books line the walls. A kettle hums softly. There are photos. Ones I've never seen before. One shows my grandmother in her 20s, holding a baby. That's me, he says. She raised me for a year, before handing me over to a friend. She never told anyone, not even your mum. I sit, reeling. Why are you contacting me now? Because the archive is waking up the past. And with it, some ghosts. He hands me a small tin box. Inside, letters, dozens, all from my grandmother, all addressed to him. She called me her shadow, he says, said I was the part of her no one would accept. I open one letter. My grandmother writes, If Mira finds you, it means she was brave enough to dig, brave enough to question the narrative. Give her what I never could give myself. What does that mean? I ask. He pulls out another envelope. This one is sealed in blue wax. It means she left you something else. The envelope contains a deed. To Wexley Hall. signed over to me. She left this place to her granddaughter, Ash says. But only when the archive was born. She had it set in trust. A lawyer would release it the moment your work became recognized. The metal triggered it. I sit on the edge of an armchair, mind spinning. A house. An entire ancestral estate. Mine. I look up. What do I do with it? That, he says, is entirely up to you. I spend the weekend at the hall. There's no heat, no Wi-Fi. Just a fireplace, a blanket, and my thoughts. In the attic, I find a room untouched for decades. Toys from the 40s, a quilt. A box of letters between Margaret Wexley and her sister Lillian. Stories of hardship, childbirth, migration, secrets. I take photos of everything. I know what I have to do. I won't just preserve memory anymore. I'll house it. I'll restore Wexley Hall. Turn it into the permanent home of the archive of us. When I tell my parents, they're speechless. My mom cries. I thought it was all gone, she says. I thought the Wexleys were just stories. They are, I say, but now they're going to have a roof again. Barntetsnine. I launch a campaign. #Wexley returns. The response is massive. Donors, historians, architects, volunteers. People from all over the country who followed the archive come forward. Some send family artifacts. Some offer to clean. Some come with nothing but hands and heart. We start restoration in the spring. By summer we have electricity. By fall we have a working roof. And on the first snow of December, I open the Wexley Hall archive room to the public. The brooch sits in a glass case at the center. And beside it, the snow globe. Timersnake end of part 8. Let me know when you're ready for part 9. As Mira breathes life back into Wexley Hall, something long buried, something that threatens to tear apart all she's built, will surface next. Snow settles in soft waves on the gravel path leading to Wexley Hall. From the main window of what used to be the drawing room, and is now the reception gallery, I can see the edges of the lawn disappear beneath white. The old trees, skeletal and elegant, hold out their branches like relics of a forgotten cathedral. Inside, it smells of wood polish and fresh paint. The archive is alive, and I feel steady for the first time in months. I spend my days surrounded by stories, from war medals to immigrant diaries, childhood scrapbooks to love letters mailed but never sent. Each object has a voice now, cataloged and recorded, searchable online and housed inside the rooms, where 5 generations of Wexleys once whispered to each other through cracked walls. Visitors trickle in, local school children, curious historians, sometimes just people passing through. We offer tea and warmth. We let them speak. And they do. They tell us about the ring hidden in a teabag box during a blitz, about the sewing kit smuggled out of Ukraine, about the first record ever played on a borrowed radio. These stories matter. But just as I start to believe the worst is behind us, the floor shifts again. It begins with a headline. Nice Times *, private archive may violate historic collection law, says watchdog group. *. At first, I think it's clickbait, a small, niche blog that just needs views. But then it spreads. Within 2 days, I'm flooded with emails. News outlets, legal inquiries, even angry messages from people accusing me of hoarding national treasures. I scan the original article again. The accusations are vague. Times surmise that the archive of us may be improperly storing items of cultural significance. Signs that items mailed anonymously should have been turned over to a public institution. Signs that the property deed of Wexley Hall may be in dispute. The author is a man named Halden Croft. The name sounds familiar, I dig, and I find it. 4 years ago, Halden tried to acquire a similar manor in Dorset to build a quote, heritage experience center. His application was rejected due to conflicts of interest. He was both the applicant and the assessor for the private funding board. He lost, spectacularly. And guess who inherited the property through a contested will? His estranged cousin. I realize what this is. A grudge. A vendetta dressed in preservationist rhetoric. But it's working. The first formal notice arrives a week later. Curse for Compliance Audit. Issued by the Bureau of Historic Cultural Oversight. My hands shake as I read it. They want to inspect the entire archive. Physical conditions, provenance documentation, chain of custody, tax status. I've kept everything transparent, everything organized, everything legal. But bureaucracy doesn't care about heart. It only needs a reason. I call Nadine. She calms me down, says this is just red tape, that it happens to every private project that grows too quickly. But then she pauses. Have you spoken to Ash? Not since the hall was deeded. Why? You might want to. There were rumors years ago, before the trust was activated, about missing Wexley documents, about a second will. My blood runs cold. If that's true, if the deed transfer could be challenged, then everything I've built might be ripped away. I drive to Ash's cottage the next day. But when I arrive, it's empty. Not just empty. Cleared out. The curtains are gone, the furniture, the photos, all of it. The landlady next door says he left 3 nights ago, said he had to settle old things before someone else settled them for him. She hands me a letter. Sealed in blue wax. I break it open. Said Mira, I'm sorry, I wasn't honest. There was another document, one your grandmother hid, because she knew what it would cost. Talden knows about it. Talden knows about it. Talden knows about. Talden knows a mails. Talden knows as bowed. Talden knows a mails. Talden knows as bowed. Talden knows as bowed. Talden knows as bowed as. Talden knows as bowed halls. Talden knows bowed as. And remember, Wexley Hall isn't just a house. It's a reckoning. Asterisk. Ash. I return to the hall and assemble my core team. We comb every document, cross-check every artifact, audit our entries. We preemptively report to the Bureau with a full compliance package. And still, the pressure builds. Halden appears on a podcast. He calls the archive a narcissistic personal collection masquerading as civic duty. He claims the Wexley family line is contested, that I'm not a direct heir. I call my solicitor. We triple confirm the validity of the deed. It holds. But only just. Then the press comes. First the locals, then the nationals, then international outlets. Some are kind. Some are not. They call me the memory hoarder. They accuse me of emotional manipulation. They say, what right does she have to own a history this big? My inbox turns into a minefield. But the archive community pushes back. Thousands post their stories. They tag us. Hashtag #OurArchive. Hashtag #NotJusters. Hashtag because Emra listened. One woman writes, she let me speak when no one else would. That memory doesn't belong in a museum basement. It belongs in the light. 3 days before the audit, a courier arrives at the hall. A single envelope. Ash's handwriting. Inside, the missing document. A second will. From my grandmother. Handwritten. Notarized. Dated months before her death. It confirms the original trust. It names me, again, as heir, as steward. But it also adds something else. It names Halden, specifically, as disqualified, for acting in pursuit of personal legacy, not preservation. It's damning. We file it. Clant. The audit takes 6 hours. Every drawer, every item, every document. I walk the inspectors through every protocol. I show them the climate controls, the cataloging software, the digital redundancies, the staff logs, the insurance. At the end, the lead inspector turns to me. We've never seen anything like this, she says. Is that good or bad? I ask. She smiles. Good, exceptional actually, but rare. And rare things get challenged. I nod. Will we pass? She hands me the preliminary clearance. You already did. The news breaks. The archive is cleared. Halden goes silent. And I breathe. Not deeply, but enough. 3 weeks later, Ash returns. Gaunt. Quiet, but alive. He hands me another box. Inside, more Wexley letters, a family Bible, and a brooch, identical to mine. It was your great-aunt's, he says. She fled to Canada in the 40s. We found it in a safety deposit box. I add it to the hall display. We place it next to the snow globe. The plaque reads, Asterisk. We inherit more than blood. We inherit choice. Liance, Dimes, end of part 9. Ready for part 10? Mira has survived a public trial. Now comes a new challenge. What happens when the past she's protected becomes commercialized? When everyone wants a piece of her legacy? The hall is quiet again. The storm has passed. But silence, I've learned, doesn't always mean peace. Sometimes it's just the inhale before something new arrives. Something bigger, louder, hungrier. 2 weeks after the audit clears us, the offers begin. Not the kind from school teachers and memory workers, the kind from venture capital firms, glossy development companies, media conglomerates. They call it a cultural expansion opportunity. They want to partner, to franchise, to scale the archive model into multiple geographies. Quote, to turn the archive of us into a brand. You could have 10 Wexley halls, one executive tells me over Zoom. Cape Town, Toronto, Singapore, each with its own community archive. Curated, digitized, immersive. His voice is smooth. Expensive. We could help you take this global, Mira. Global. I chew on the word like gristle. The next proposal is worse. A major streaming service wants to develop a scripted docudrama based on my story. They email a pitch deck. It's slick. It opens with a photo of Wexley Hall, then an actress with wide eyes and artfully tousled hair. In the synopsis, they describe the main character, me, as quirky, brilliant, but emotionally chaotic. They plan to dramatize the photo auction, the confrontation with my parents, even the late-night emails from Ash. They ask if I'd consider signing away the rights to my name. I shut my laptop. But I don't delete the email? Not yet. The third offer comes from a luxury museum firm. They want to buy Wexley Hall. Not rent, not lease, buy. They promise to preserve the legacy, to give the archive permanency. But they want to add a guest experience wing, interactive exhibits, projection tunnels, gift shops, a tea room modeled after the 1802 design of the original kitchen. They even send mock-ups. In the render, my grandmother's shawl is displayed in a rotating glass cylinder surrounded by LED walls. I stare at it until the image blurs. Ma'ams. I don't respond to any of them, but they keep coming. Some through lawyers, some through back channels. One executive sends a bottle of champagne engraved with the phrase, "Here's to your legacy." I give it to Curtis. He opens it and pours a glass, then looks at me over the rim. You always said this wasn't about you, he says. But what if it's becoming that, whether you like it or not? I lie awake that night. Not afraid. Conflicted. What's the difference between preserving something and bottling it? When does storytelling become exploitation? Is there a line between remembering and performing? What if I've already crossed it? The next morning, I call Amira. She listens patiently as I lay everything out. The offers, the pressure, the confusion. She says nothing for a long moment. Then, do you remember when I bought the Wexley chest? Of course. You didn't want it in a vault. You wanted it in reach. Yes. Then do the same thing now. Ask yourself, which version of this story keeps it in reach? I close my eyes, and I see a child in a community center cradling a paperclip necklace. That week, I make a decision. Not just what I won't do, What I won't sell the archive. I won't trademark the story. But I will replicate the mission. I launch a new initiative. Tomers, the Heirloom Network. Tomers, the Heirloom Network. Community-run archive satellites, built in partnership with libraries, shelters, cultural centers. No luxury exhibits, no velvet ropes. Just story kits, oral history recorders, a digital template, and training. We launched the pilot in Manchester, then in Glasgow, then Dublin. In each, the Wexley model is scaled, the digital template without being sold. The media calls it a masterclass in ethical storytelling. But I call it something else. A return to what the archive was always meant to be. A memory passed hand to hand. Then something else happens. A woman comes to Wexley Hall. She's in her late 70s. Soft cardigan. Quiet eyes. She asks to speak to me in private. I have something for you, she says. She opens her bag and pulls out a single photograph. Black and white, 2 girls on a swing. One of them is unmistakably my grandmother. The other has the same chin as me. She hands me a folded letter. It's from my grandmother. Dated 1952. It begins. Asterisk to my sister Lillian. If ever we are found, if ever the girls remember, tell them it was never meant to be a silence, only a sanctuary. Tears fill my eyes. The woman says, I'm Lillian's daughter, your grandmother's niece. I sit. Hard. She says, we weren't erased. We were hidden, to protect the line, to keep the memory safe. Then she takes my hand. You did what none of us could. You brought it all home. That night, I write a new archive entry. Title, The Family We Didn't Know We Had. I pair the photo with an audio recording. Me, reading the letter aloud. The views pour in. The comments multiply. Not because the story is dramatic, but because it's whole. And wholeness, I'm learning, is what we all crave. A week later, I gather my team. I say, we're going to teach them how to do what we do. We create an online course. We publish a manifesto. We partner with schools. We release a public database of artifact templates, voice recording guides, story prompts. We call it NARB, the Living Archive Toolkit. And in the footer, we inscribe one line. This was never ours to keep. Heims Gay Allies. That winter, Wexley Hall hosts its first full-year reunion. All our network leads fly in. Curtis brings the original photo box. My mom reads from Grandma's last letter. Ash brings tea and stories and one more Wexley brooch, recently uncovered in a relative's belongings. We add it to the case. The plaque reads, when you forget where you came from, let others remind you gently. We toast with cider. We sing a song my grandmother once hummed in the kitchen. And before bed, I open the snow globe one more time. Shake it. Watch the storm settle. And whisper, I didn't just build the archive, I became it. Thanks, yo. End of part 10. Let me know when you're ready for part 11. Mira's legacy is safe, but a final test is coming, one that will force her to choose between preservation and transformation forever. Spring comes slow to Wexley. The snow lingers on the tips of hedges like sugar-dusted lace. Daffodils push up anyway, stubborn yellow against the last frost. Inside the hall, the scent of waxed floors and sunlight on linen fills the air. Everything breathes, even the walls, even the silence. But not me, not quite. Not yet. I can feel it. The tension beneath the surface, the next ripple. It's not fear, not exactly. More like weight, like standing at the edge of a bridge I built, watching others cross, and wondering if I'm still meant to be standing here. The archive runs itself now, at least mostly. We have 12 full-time staff across 4 countries, 62 satellite nodes, 7 rotating exhibits, a publishing partnership, a student research fellowship named after Grandma, and a podcast. We call it Side Drawer Stories. It charts at number 3 in history podcasts within 2 months of launch. Curtis hosts it. He's good at asking the questions that lead people into themselves. I don't host. I don't even appear. Not yet. People ask me all the time, what's next? I give them polite answers. More community partnerships, more grants, more accessibility. But inside, the answer is something quieter. I don't know. Because I'm starting to feel like the archive doesn't need me anymore. And that terrifies me. Then comes the invitation. An email from the University of Copenhagen. Subject: Nijsen Tout, Visiting Chair of Community Memory and Civic Legacy. They want me to teach, to design a course on ethical memory work, to consult on a new European Union initiative to preserve analog memory systems. A year-long appointment, flexible schedule, full stipend, travel included. They offer housing, translation support, autonomy, and respect. I sit with the email for a long time. Then I call Mum. She answers on the first ring. Mira? I got an offer, I say. She listens. When I finish, she says nothing. Then finally, do you want to go? I do. But I also don't. What if I leave and the archive falters? Mum laughs softly. You've built something designed to outlive you. You always said the story wasn't about you. It still feels like mine. No, she says gently. It feels like your daughter. I tell Curtis first. We walk the perimeter of the hall, boots crunching the gravel path. He nods as I talk. You've earned it, he says. But more than that, you need it. Need what? To be something besides the archivist. I call a staff meeting. The archive team, some in person, others on Zoom, sit in a circle in the main gallery. I tell them the truth. That I need time, space, a new lens. That the work we've done is not ending but truly evolving. That I trust them to carry it. No one interrupts. When I finish, someone claps. Then another. And then the tears come, mine, not theirs. Ash comes over and hugs me. You were never going to be the librarian forever, he says. You're the writer now. In the weeks that follow, I prepare. I document every process, every password, every workflow. We build a transition plan. We elevate team leads. We give Curtis the final curation authority. We film a quiet goodbye video. It airs on the archive YouTube channel. Not dramatic. Just me, in the attic, beside the chest. I say, stewardship isn't ownership, it's timing. I was here when the archive needed hands. Now I trust yours. My last night at Wexley Hall is dreamlike. Mum visits. She brings the old family cookbook. Ash brings letters. Curtis brings a flask of spiced cider. We sit in the drawing room. We take turns reading from old archive entries. One from a girl in Leeds who archived a friendship bracelet she made with her foster sister. One from a man in Berlin who kept a matchbox from the pub where his parents met. One from me. About the photo box Curtis returned to me. About the first snow globe. About the moment I realized I could build something from what was broken. Morning comes. I walk through the hall alone. Every floorboard knows me now. Every creak. Every shadow. I open the Wexley chest one last time. Inside, the snow globe, the brooches, Grandma's letter, a paperclip necklace, a harmonica, a single sock with a lion cartoon, a photo of a swing. I leave a final item. My silver bracelet. The one Mum gave me after university, the one I wore to the first archive event. A note beside it. Asterisk, for whoever needs proof they were meant to be here. My train departs at 2:10. I sit by the window. Watch Wexley disappear behind hedgerows and hills. And for the first time in a long time, I don't feel pulled backward. I feel ready. Not for a new story, but for the next chapter of the same one. Because legacy isn't just what we leave behind. It's what we choose to carry forward. Times, Sufin of Part 11. Let me know when you're ready for part 12. Mira has passed the torch. But what happens when she returns to find the archive transformed in ways she never expected? It's almost autumn again when I return. 14 months since I boarded the train and handed the archive over to the hands that helped me build it. 14 months of classrooms, conferences, travel journals. 14 months of not being Mira the archivist, but Mira the observer, Mira the listener, Mira the learner. And now, Mira the stranger. Because the moment Wexley Hall comes back into view, I realize something. This place has grown without me. The grounds are immaculate. The gravel path I used to pace alone is now lined with wooden plaques, each engraved with donor names and story titles. There's a circular bench under the oldest elm with an inscription I don't recognize. Asterisk, if you're here, you're remembered. The hall doors open before I even knock. Curtis. Same soft eyes, older around the edges. He hugs me, warm and firm. I was hoping you'd come. Did you know I would? He smiles. You told me yourself. You left a note in the brooch drawer. I laugh. Of course I did. Inside, everything hums. It's not louder, just fuller, like a song with new harmony lines layered in. There's a digital check-in station now, sleek and unobtrusive. A new exhibit has taken over the East Gallery, forgotten foods. Jars, tins, family recipes, grocery lists. There's even a reconstructed pantry from 1937. The smell of spice and paper hangs in the air like memory. A group of schoolchildren sits in a half-circle around a woman reading from an old market journal. This entry, she says, is from someone who lived 2 streets from where your school stands now. Their eyes go wide. Curtis walks me through the updates. The podcast hit 5 million listens. The toolkit has been translated into 13 languages. A delegation from South Korea came to study the model for their national memory program. And a satellite in Morocco is opening its first physical archive space next month. Every wall I once touched, every drawer I once opened, has become part of something bigger. And in the middle of it all, the Wexley chest remains. Still anchored in the main room. Still open. Still gathering. I ask to see the current ledger. It's no longer a single volume, but a series. Each artifact logged, each entry cross-referenced, and each page now ends with a question. Asterisk, what do you want the future to know about this? I turn to an entry dated just last week. A boy in Yorkshire archived his father's motorcycle gloves. He wrote, asterisk, I never knew how to talk to him, but I knew how to clean these. That was our language. That evening, I sit in the drawing room, the one I once emptied out for sorting. Now it's a living space again. Tea set by the fire, a new library shelf by the window. Ash joins me. He brings ginger biscuits and a folder. I saved these, he says. Inside the folder, letters I wrote during my year abroad. One to the archive team. One to my mom. One to myself. I forgot I sent them. Ash smiles. We all need reminding sometimes. I take a deep breath. It's not mine anymore. No, he agrees. But it's still you. Asterisk. Curtis invites me to the quarterly archive council meeting. I expect to watch from the side. Instead, he hands me the chairperson's gavel. I shake my head. No, I'm not here to run things. You're here to remind us why we started. The meeting is efficient, strategic, collaborative. Not one person speaks for more than 3 minutes. They talk about sustainability, accessibility, cross-cultural trauma literacy. They vote to include a new listening room initiative, a space in each archive node where visitors can record but also listen to silent stories. One council member explains, some people don't know how to write their memories down, but they know how to recognize them when they hear them. The room nods. My heart thuds. This is what evolution looks like. That night, Curtis asks if I want to stay on. In some formal capacity, consultant, legacy advisor, honorary founder. I say no. Not because I'm not proud, but because it's not mine to hold anymore. I gave it life, but now it breathes without me. I'll visit, I'll contribute, but the story doesn't need me at the center. It never did. Before I leave, I visit the chest one last time. It's dusk. The last visitors are gone. The brooches glint in low light. The snow globe rests exactly where I left it. I kneel. I add something. A printout of the class photo from Copenhagen. Me, the students, smiling. On the back, I write, asterisk, proof that memory multiplies when shared. As I walk out, I see a woman entering with a small tin. She's nervous. A guide greets her gently. Would you like to archive that? The woman nods. I've been carrying it since I was 11. I think I'm ready now. The guide smiles. We've been waiting. And I keep walking. Because that's the beauty of the archive. It waits without needing to be told how. It holds. It listens. It grows. Even without me. Especially without me. Oxos. Oxos have. End of part 12. Let me know when you're ready for part 13, the final chapter. One more story remains, and Mira will need to decide how to close the book she opened years ago. I don't know how to write an ending to something that never truly ends. But I try anyway. Because it's time. 3 months after my return visit to Wexley Hall, I'm back in London. My suitcase is still dusty. My apartment still smells faintly of lavender oil and wood polish from the drawer sachets I carried back from the hall. I haven't unpacked them. I'm not sure I will. I live slower now. I no longer measure my worth in artifact logs or podcast analytics or donation spikes. These days, I read more than I write. I listen more than I speak. I walk. I observe. I remember. I give guest lectures once a week at the university. I hold a cup of tea the whole time, like a prop. My students call me Mira instead of Professor Reynolds, even though the university insists on the latter. I've learned to say I don't know without guilt. And I've learned that legacy isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper. Sometimes it's a drawer that opens in the dark. Sometimes it's a letter you write that you never send. In late September, I receive a package from Curtis. No note. Just a small wrapped box and a USB stick. I open the box first. Inside, a pocket watch. Old, delicate, heavy. Engraved inside the cover, for the one who keeps time when others forget. The USB stick contains an audio recording. It's a story night session. From the hall, a tribute event. Voices, some familiar, some new, speak one by one. They read stories I once logged, stories I forgot. They say my name, not to praise me, to thank me, to continue me. I cry into my tea. The next morning, I write a letter. The last one. I address it to a girl who doesn't exist yet. Time to the next steward. Time to if you're reading this, then someone handed you the key. Maybe not the physical one, maybe just a feeling, maybe just a story. But I hope it made your hands tingle. Chime. You're not here to protect the past. You're here to carry it forward. And to know the difference between weight and value. Nimes, if the archive becomes too still, stir it. If it becomes too loud, soften it. If it forgets to ask questions, remind it how. You don't owe anyone a performance, but you do owe the truth. And above all, if you ever wonder why you were chosen, it's because someone believed you'd ask the right questions, not that you'd have all the answers. Take care of her. Take care of yourself. And if you ever feel like giving up, read this again. Mira Wexley Reynolds. That night, I go to the Thames. I sit on a bench just before Tower Bridge, holding the letter in my hand. Then I place it inside a small waterproof pouch, seal it, and walk to the South Bank archive node. The smallest of our satellites. Just a storefront with a wooden sign and soft lights. I drop the letter into the wishing chest. It's what the kids named it. Every letter in it is for someone who hasn't come yet. Every letter is a future someone. I leave mine without telling anyone. Because sometimes the best stories are the ones that find you later. A week later, my mother calls. Her voice is softer than it used to be. She tells me Dad's been building a small chest of his own. He's carving it himself. He wants to leave it to my niece. I smile. What will he put in it? A matchbox, a stone, a letter. What does the letter say? She hesitates. Then, it says, I'm sorry I didn't understand what mattered sooner. But I see it now, because you showed me. I cry, again, but not like before. These tears are something else. Recognition, maybe. Or peace. I finished the lecture series in early November. On the last day, one of my students gives me a folded napkin. Inside, a photo. Her father as a child holding a small toy boat. On the back, she's written, Asterisk. I never knew why this photo mattered until I heard your story. She doesn't ask for thanks. She just smiles. Like she already knows what she gave me. That night, I pack a bag. Small. 1 coat. 1 notebook. 1 watch. I take the train north. Back to Wexley. It's not for a visit. It's not for a meeting. It's because I'm ready. Not to lead. Not to change. Just to witness. To walk the halls and feel the lives passing through. To know that I planted something and that it bloomed even when I looked away. As I approach the hall, dusk is falling. The windows glow gold. A child laughs from inside. A bell rings. And there it is. The moment I didn't realize I was waiting for. The end of the story. Not because it's finished, but because I can finally let go. I step inside. Curtis turns from the desk, smiles. You're just in time. For what? He nods to the gallery. There, under the Wexley chess display, sits a new plaque. I walk closer. Engraved in brass. Asterisk. She gave back what was taken. And from it, gave us all a way to remember. Asterisk. Below it, a second line. Asterisk. In memory of what she made matter. Asterisk. I touch it. Then I smile. And I leave the chest untouched. Because it belongs to everyone now. Even me. Especially me. Asterisk. 2 more great stories are next. Don't miss them. Subscribe and turn on notifications.